as we kind of go through some of these regulatory requirements are all over the place. I've probably seen, we have a list of them here, and we get into each one of these categories and all of these requirements. It comes down to a lot too about who's auditing you and what's really driving it. HIPAA has been there for a while. It's always talked about having a DR, but what's really driving it that we've seen over the past couple of years has been you need to roll out your like EHR. In your EHR now, all of your eggs are in some basket, and I need to make sure that doesn't go down. So I'm now putting more emphasis on DR than I am because of EHR, not just because of HIPAA requirements. Would you get in trouble, fined if somebody came through as the HIPAA police, if you will, to say that you're not doing things right? Yes. But the next level down was I'm doing EHR. I'm putting all my eggs into one central data center or one service, and I need to have a DR with it, because if that goes down, now I understand all of our services are down there writing through EHR applications. So HIPAA's been huge. EHR's been huge. The technology refresh type of programs are out there around healthcare. Those have been huge. It hasn't just been HIPAA. HIPAA's helped, but these other things are huge drivers with it. FDIC is along the same line too. You know, requirements of just being up in 72 hours. It hasn't just been that. It's also been the financial institutions, business now, that can't be down for 3 days. And they've experienced some of those things, not only from the auditor coming in and talking to them about it, but they've had their own events. So now they're trying to improve these RPO and these RTO times. Okay. So as you go through these requirements from FERC, FSMA's been a big deal if you're doing contracting business for the federal government, which a lot of people have over the past 3 years, been doing a lot more work with the federal government. They've got requirements for DR capability. So they've got to go through some DR requirements. FDA, OSHA, these have always been there too. It's just everyone is now getting more focused on, I can't have my IT down, my systems down. It's got to be up. I can't wait for 3 days. Okay, next please, Mel. As we kind of go into some of the challenges that I see that are pretty common out there, IT still, or the businesses still have a hard time identifying critical systems. Everyone thinks their systems are important, but what are really critical that we're going to pay money to make sure it meets these RPO, RTO times? And you may have those tiered, but it's hard for people to get those tiered. Identifying the appropriate risk. What are we going to mitigate from? Are we going to mitigate from a fire in a computer room, a fire in a building, a fire on the block, the whole town having problems, the whole state having problems, the whole region having issues? What are we supposed to mitigate against? What I have seen people do on this challenges is you're trying to mitigate your own risk. So if you're by a river, or if you're in an earthquake zone, or if you're in an area that's around some sort of poor power development or poor telecom development, what's important to the group on what they're trying to mitigate? Mitigate that. One of the challenges I have seen is people have traditionally said, well, I got something in California, I need to move my data center to the Midwest or the Southwest or the East or something. That's kind of tough nowadays if you look at back at 9/11 and the idea of flying, and also the idea of people wanting to leave their family in case of those type of disasters like a terrorist attack or those type of things. I don't want to leave my family. So look at it from that perspective too. What's real? What can I mitigate? And how I'm going to operate if I do declare like a disaster. I don't want to operate, move it, and can't operate it because my people can't get there. Okay? Data has been growing like a weed, and like then some. It's very tough for people to get an idea of this data growth. There isn't a lot of data classification. You maybe have been doing things maybe on a traditional sense from your backups, recover all backups, recover all servers. There's a lot of things on all those servers and all those backups. How do I manage it? Different type of data has been coming into play. Video, imaging, and those things with it. So it's huge on the data growth. Regulatory requirements, have been have always been there. From a health perspective, they've got some deadlines coming up on some technology requirements, but I've always got deadlines. Service offerings are expanding all over the place. Who's going to help me? How am I going to get this done? And, of course, the limited IT resources. It's not like people are coming in saying, hey, do this DR thing, and here's 5 more headcount to get it done and $5 more million or something. That's not how I'm seeing it work. Okay, next, please. As we go through this, we've got to also make sure that it's all got to work. So as we look at all the buzzes out there, virtualization, cloud computing, replication, backups, another thing I hear a lot of people call, that bare metal recovery thought and all these things, it needs to work. It needs to work not only after you've installed it, but after for the next 20 years, the next 5 years, whatever that expectation is. It's just not install, forget about it. I've got to now make sure it works. Why I bring this up is because a lot of times people will create more work as they do a DR plan. There's more servers you got to monitor. There's more networks you got to monitor. There's more application processes that you have to be aware of. You've got to make sure on how you can measure your RPO, RTO time. All these things have to come together, and it needs to work always. A classic thing I'll use is I'll say, if something at your DR site or within your DR plan fails at Saturday at midnight, what would your organization do? Would you dispatch immediately to get it fixed, or would you wait until Monday morning? And Monday morning comes around, you've now maybe have lost capabilities at your DR site for over a day. Tuesday comes because Monday's always busy. Now it's 2 or 3 days that you've lost capabilities at your DR site. How's that going to work within your priorities? You don't want to have this thing, you're going to spend money to have it decayed. So the best you're going to have it is after you get it installed, and it's going to decay afterwards. Don't have that strategy. Next, please.